Okay, we are live, Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this January 19th, 2021 council meeting, committee of the whole meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. I have a motion here and I need a mover and a seconder. The motion is that the January 19, 2021 committee of the whole budget meeting agenda be approved as presented.
So moved.
Okay, so Councillor Anderson and Councillor Tadman. And we need to have a recorded vote for that. Deputy Clerk.
I'm sorry, just give me 1 second here. Okay, Councillor Anderson.
Yes.
And Councillor Bateman.
Yes.
Councillor Rowley.
Yes.
Councillor Tadman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vink.
Yes.
And Mayor Brian Ostrander. Oh, sorry, I missed you, Doug. Councillor LeBlanc. I think Councillor LeBlanc is frozen.
The joy of the Zoom meeting.
Oh, we've lost Councillor LeBlanc. He's coming back in just a second. Do you have us okay, Councillor LeBlanc?
Yeah, I'm at the town hall. I'm still having broadband problems.
We're just voting for the approval of the agenda. Councillor LeBlanc, how do you vote? In favor? He's frozen again.
It looks like a frozen yes.
Yeah, Deputy Clerk, we can go on to Mayor Ostrander and then we would still have a majority.
Yep. Okay. Mayor Ostrander?
Yes.
Carried.
Okay, and do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? I don't see any. No delegations. Do we have any citizens' comments? Clerk,
No.
Deputy Clerk?
None tonight.
Thank you. Let me keep up on my paperwork. So next we're going to go right into the staff report. We received an update to the budget book, the second draft. If we would like perhaps Linda Widowfield, our Director of Finance, could maybe go over the report and give us any information she'd like to tonight. And then we can deliberate through that section, the operating section of the budget.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. When we stopped meeting in December, concluded the first draft of meetings, we didn't know quite a few little pieces of information. We didn't have our assessment growth at that time, or maybe had just received it. So Council should be aware that the assessment growth for 2020 was $164,099. So that provided us with the difference between our budget increase and our tax increase. Also in the budget book, there's a list of all of the changes that have been made by the committee of the whole from the beginning, first draft report to today. And we're at 2.26% of a tax increase for just our lower tier municipal portion. Council had
Linda,
asked.
Linda, sorry, because we're not all together, just mention
Oh.
what page you're on. That way everyone is on the same page, literally.
Literally. Okay, I'm sorry. So I talked first about the assessment, which was page 3, and I've talked now about the changes on page 4. And if there's any information on here that council wants to talk about that may not be as accurate as you had hoped, I understand that maybe the Casey's Lane maintenance was a little bit more money than what I have in here, and we may need to make some changes. Also, on this, starting on page 4, council had asked for some information on our information technology solutions, so our IT, and enhancing our IT. And so I thought, or we thought as staff, that it was appropriate that council understand how the IT works in our small municipality without having a full-time permanent type IT manager. So obviously there's different portions of IT that are handled by different staff members within the organization. Some of it is handled by the clerk's department, and some by finance, and some by economic development, and some by public works. And even some by our parks department. So everybody has a little share in our IT role in this organization. Much of that information is focused and centered back through me, but I am not fully responsible for information technology. We also have a managed service contract, and that's a third-party contractor that helps us with our server and backups and all of that type of things. And when we have a problem with a workstation that needs some tweaking, or even your laptops or your iPads or whatever, we can call on them, and we just pay them a monthly amount. So we don't have anybody that comes into our building right now, and we're proposing in this second draft budget that we could have managed service come to this building at a cost to the taxpayers. So that is essentially that report that has been written in here. And after I'm completed presenting this book, then I'd be happy to answer any questions on that report. The next report was adding the cost of enhanced bylaw enforcement, specifically with respect to, because we're complaints driven. We had several complaints in the summer when people from outside of town were parking along our residential streets to go and visit the provincial park. And so that became an issue in the summer. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think that was part of the issue with bylaw enforcement and needing some enhancement there. Of course, there's some other, speeding and where the black cat is, and short-term accommodations. So this report was written with some assistance from CAO Castleman. And so I think that if there's any questions about it, it would be Paul Walsh or Bob Castleman that could answer those questions better than I could. So now I'm flipping on to page 7, which is your budget changes. And then again, your residential tax increase, which I sent an update today by memo to members of council. So I put some disclaimers on this memo. Number 1, assessment growth was added. So it's already been taken into consideration. Assessments were not being phased in 2021. So all of the assessments were holding our 2020 assessed value. MPAC through COVID didn't have the opportunity to work on that project for the next 4-year phase-in. So we're frozen at the 2020 assessment rates. There could be some changes to tax policy that's handled through the county. And so some changes to tax policy could change the weighted assessment, meaning assessment going from commercial to residential, or maybe farm to, like a shift in those different classes. So the following, or the fourth and final one that I put on here was that the education rate for residential is to remain unchanged through a memo that we received last week from Alan Dehaney. So you're currently at a blended rate of 1.68%, and it was 2.28% in your budget book. So following on page 8 and 9 is your summary of reserves for your second draft. I've also sent that in a separate email tonight, just if you wanted to refer to that and make it larger on your computer. That was your prerogative. The internal loan schedule is on page 10, and then the budget summary follows, starting on page 11. And I also sent you the budget summary, but more expanded, so you can see the revenues and expenditures if you wanted to refer to that again on your computer. So that takes us to the end of the second draft report.
Thank you, Linda. And just to clarify the page, let's see, I think it was 7 that you sent out, or that was part of the budget binder. You did send out an update today with the 1.68. Everyone received that, I think. At this point, council has approved the capital budget, and we've gone through the external budgets, and now we're looking at the operating budget. And so that's what we're going to focus on tonight. On page 11, we can start there if we want to. We're at a blended 1.68 rate at this point. Just trying to draw that page out. But our municipal rate right now is at 2.30. So I would like to go, sorry, go ahead, Mayor Ostrander.
Just a question for clarification through you, Deputy Mayor, to Director Whitfield. Is the two, the enhanced bylaw enforcement and the enhanced IT, are they included in the numbers we're seeing?
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
And also further to that, the two reports that we have after this from Mr. Hagerman are not included in this. Is that correct? Okay, so we need to keep that in mind while we're talking, deliberating, that those two items may be added later, unless we want to have those discussions now and then talk about our budget overall. What's the preference of council?
That would be my preference, Deputy Mayor. Let's have those discussions and then we'll circle back and make some decisions.
Sorry, Mayor, you're going in and out. Can you repeat what you said?
Sure. I would like to hear Mr. Hagerman's reports, and then let's circle back and have some discussion.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. I think everyone is in agreement with that. So, Mr. Hagerman, did you want to go on and just present your two reports, and then we can ask any questions if we need to at that time?
Yeah, sure. Be pretty brief. I'm sure you've read them. The one is a summer experience program grant where we're looking to hire a summer student that would be based out of my department under my supervision, and they'd be helping me out with some mostly tourism related work and promoting assets, promoting tourism related businesses, helping me with the communications pieces. And it's a grant from the province, from the Ministry of Tourism and Sport, that would be in the vicinity of $3,700. Obviously, that doesn't go too far. So we've talked to our friends over at Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, and they've agreed to help us out with the difference of the increase in per capita funding from the last 2 years. So which gets us up to almost another $3,000, I believe, and something like 29 something. So between those two amounts, we wouldn't be looking at any budgeted amount of money to pay this student at a pretty healthy student wage of, I believe, $14.25 an hour. So the idea here is to find someone in a related field of marketing, tourism, communications, and give them an opportunity to work for a municipality and work in their field and gain some experience. And while doing so, allowing the municipality to reap the rewards from an extra set of hands for 12 weeks or so.
Any questions from council on Ben's proposal for a summer student? Mayor Ostrander, go ahead, and then Councillor LeBlanc after you.
Good question, Deputy Mayor. Just comment that this seems like a pretty good idea, especially given that it doesn't affect the property taxpayer.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc. You're muted, Councillor LeBlanc.
Am I unmuted now?
You are unmuted now.
Okay, thank you. Different way to unmute now. Deputy Mayor, I agree, Chair, I agree with this. I was wondering in the hiring process if they would give preference to local students within a geographic.
I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, quite frankly. I think we're going to take the most qualified candidate, and if they happen to be local and have a good background, working knowledge of the community, I think that's an added value piece. But I think first and foremost, we'll be looking for the most qualified candidate.
Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Yeah, I do.
I think it's a good idea. That's good, Ben. Free you up to have some more activity going on, and it's going to be a busy time. So we'll be coming out of this in any way, but it's going to be a busy time dealing with whatever we've got to face during that period. So it'll be good to have an extra set of hands for sure.
Yeah, for sure, especially because we're just getting going in the area of economic development. There's a lot of funding out there that we can be taking advantage of, and opportunities that if we have the right help that we're able to do that. We're not just about cutting taxes, we're about finding funding and finding other ways to fund things. So I think that's important. Anyone else on council that has a comment? Okay, Mr. Hageman, did you want to just briefly talk about your next report, the mapping?
So we are partners of the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, and they had a funding program just before Christmas that any business in Belleville, Brighton, and Quinte West was eligible for, and as well as the local organizational not-for-profits as well. So our local Chamber of Commerce applied for a grant that would allow them to design and print a marketing map that on one side would be a map of the community and some landmarks and a really good design that would promote the entire community, and the other side would be a walking tour promotion on the back of the map. And so They received $3,500 in funding, and they've come to my office, my department, with a request for another 1,000. That would get them up to meet the design costs, as well as allow them to print off 7,500 maps, which would meet the needs for our community. This is also a partnership with the Brighton Digital Archives. They'll be taking on the walking tour component of the map. So to me, for $1,000, we can add a lot of marketing value for our community in a time when we're really going to be pushing foot traffic in our community to shop local, to eat local, and to check out our local tourism assets.
I think that sounds like a great idea. Just an FYI, the Heritage Advisory Committee has 2 walking maps with historical sites on it already. They do need to be updated. We've talked about it on the committee a few times, but there's a resource as far as adding the historical. You don't have to go and find it. We already have it in a brochure. It's somewhere. Sometimes we lose where these things are. Mr. Walsh might be able to tell us where they're stored at Public Works, but we do have a couple of brochures that can be used as reference. Council, do you have any comments or questions on this one? I'm not seeing any. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ackerman. Let's I didn't actually ask if council had any questions of Ms. Whitfield concerning just her report in general. Does anyone have any questions at this point that you want to ask, or do we want to just take care of it while we're deliberating? Just raise your hand if you have a question at this point. No, I don't see any. Okay. Is everyone comfortable just going with through each department? Councillor Anderson, did you have a comment?
Yeah. Sorry to back up a little bit. Linda had mentioned in her report that we could talk about the IT situation. Should we do that now, or should we do that at some other point in this process?
We can talk about it when we talk about that department. Is it in the general government, Linda, or?
It's information technology is throughout the budget. So yeah, we could talk about it in general government.
Okay. Okay, so that is our first category that we're looking at, general government. And so maybe, does anyone, we've all read the report. Does anyone have questions, comments that they have at this time? Ron, Councillor Anderson, did you want to start off with anything there, or?
Well, Linda did a good job explaining on how it's done now with everybody taking part. I just wondered how we hear different things happen at different times with different needs, and we've done very well coming through with our new setup that we have in the municipal in the hall in our meeting space, and getting our streaming going, etc. I know we thought we should have somebody that could be on hand to take care of a lot of these things, and maybe take some pressure off of Tom as well. Perhaps Tom's got enough on his plate too, but should we be discussing if we were to hire somebody, what effect that's going to have on this budget, or is everybody happy doing it the way we're doing it? Somebody's putting up a note. Anyhow, I just wonder if we should be talking about that now, or is everybody happy the way it's being handled now, considering that everything's sort of fallen into place fairly well, doing it ourselves?
Mr. Castleman, did you want to add comment to that?
Sure, I'm just going to jump in here, and we all know that we're going to have an HR session with myself and council in the not too distant future, and during that time we're going to be speaking about various personnel issues, organizational reviews. We all are aware that the second part of the organizational review has not been completed yet. That does include IT. I would be hesitant to make any definitive decisions at this point until such time that we completed that comprehensive review so that we get it right, quite frankly. And I understand that we're always going to have IT problems and we're trying to improve things on an ongoing basis, but I would just ask the group to be patient for a little bit so that we can have a fulsome discussion and get it right.
So are you suggesting that we leave this budget as it is and don't at this point try to add anything more for IT? Because
well, I think the desire of council was to have some supplementary help, and we've embedded that within the updated version. I think we've added plus or minus $30,000 or so to enhance the level of service that we currently have. Let's see how that goes and reflect upon it in a couple months.
okay, yeah, that's good to know. So it's about 30,000 spread across the departments to add tech support where needed. Any other questions or comments about tech at this point? Okay, so we have the general government budget. We can see we have our first section there, payments in lieu of taxes and OMPF provincial grants. There's a decrease of 1.19%. We have our taxes, general government revenue, council revenue and expenditures, and admin revenue and expenditures. That is at a 0% increase. And then we have our that little section there, livestock claims, emergency planning, and health and safety. Is that part of general government too? I think so. They're not separated on here in general.
It sort of moves into protective services with the fire department.
Okay, so we'll discuss that under fire department. So those first two sections that we have there, is everyone satisfied with those as they are? I just want to see a nod, and if not, raise your hand if you have questions or comments. Okay, so let's move on to the fire department. We have livestock claims, emergency planning, and health and safety. That's at a decrease of 4.85%. We have our fire department functions, administrative, fire prevention, and equipment. Now, equipment, obviously, this is not capital equipment. This must be just maintaining equipment. And then we have our South and North Fire Division. So that's a 2.78% increase. Is council satisfied with this? Do we have questions for our fire chief, or are we ready to move on? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not really talking about the fire department. My concern is more with emergency planning, and there's a decrease. And even though it's not fairly significant, why are we decreasing that a little bit? I guess, you know, this last couple of years has taught us that we certainly need to focus on a bit more of emergency planning. Just my question.
So if it's okay with you, Deputy Mayor, I'll jump in there.
Yeah.
We've decreased the budget for conferences. That budget hasn't been used year over year. And so we've just decreased it or taken it from 2,500 down to 500. Also with COVID, I don't know that too many conferences would be taking place in 2020.
Okay, thank you for that.
Now, I know it's part of emergency planning. Every member has some required sort of training, which mostly is done in-house. So that, of course, has not been reduced at all, right? That's still intact the way it is.
That's
Any
correct.
other questions? Yeah, thank you, Linda. Any other questions from council as far as the fire department and emergency budgets? Is everyone satisfied with these budgets at the rates that they're at? Okay. Next, we have planning. This includes planning, zoning, heritage committee, digital archives committee, committee of adjustments. Number of committees fall under this department. It shows a 14.93% increase, and that's mainly because of the digital archives committee being added to that. And then below that, we have the industrial park at a 0% as it's supposed to offset itself as far as income and expenses. Any questions from council on this department? Councillor Rowley.
Just on the industrial park, I know it's 0 as far as servicing the lots. I know we were getting hydro in. I'm assuming that's all complete. Gas and fiber, are they all done as well? And if so, or if not, will there be a cost at some point for either of those services?
I'm going to jump in here, Madam Deputy Mayor. Hydro is in place in the industrial park, and arrangements have been made to put the gas in. There's a couple of options for council. If council wants to go ahead and put the gas in at their cost, it's a plus or minus $125,000. If what we've been doing from a staff perspective is waiting for demand to create itself via a building permit or building permits, and based upon that demand, gas has agreed to put the servicing in place at 0 cost to the municipality. So we're being patient, and we're trying to avoid having to spend $125,000.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And so at this budget, obviously, we're looking at 70 in and 70 out. That's just really to keep it at 0. Are we confident that we will be at 0 this year, or does it balance out from year to year depending on what we're doing?
Linda, do you want to address that one? Sorry.
Yeah,
No.
sorry.
Whoever would like to. Sorry, I don't.
Yeah, no, I will address it. So that's just our net expenditures and revenue. And we balance it out through internal borrowing for the industrial park. And the 70,000 kind of represents what we're putting in there for in the budget for lot sales.
Yes.
So 2-acre sales. And then 70,000 in expenditures obviously it's balanced out against the borrowing, internal borrowing.
The idea is that it's going to pay for itself as we grow it at this point.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, Chair. In planning, since we're still in planning, last night at the council meeting, we voted in a supplementary amount for RSM. Is this included in this budget?
Ms. Whitfield?
I think I should defer that to Paul because he knows the numbers that are in his budget at the moment.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Walsh?
Madam Chair, to Councillor LeBlanc. No, the RSM contract is separate from this budget. It's a money in, money out proposition. That agreement with RSM, whatever costs are incurred through RSM are addressed by the developer and not by the municipality. So it's accounted for. Now, of course, we have a development permit coming in for 2021, and that's not reflected in this budget, and we don't necessarily accurately forecast exactly what the building permit revenue is going to be because we really don't know what applications we're going to be receiving. So I guess to give you a more general answer, no, the building bylaw revenue line does not reflect.
So just for clarity, what we decided on last night is technically covered through the building permit revenues. Even though we had to decide on it, it is covered through that. So we're not having to add it as a separate item on our budget.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc, did you have another question?
Yes, well, it was based on 50%. The town would pay 50%, the developer would pay 50%. If it's permits coming in, the planning department has to be self-funded, and the permits and stuff self-fund the planning department. So in that, if it's not going to be equal, for getting it on the permits, it's supposed to go towards the budget. So it's money, it's 50-50%. So we're going to pay 50% of those costs.
Yes, we will. And those costs will be covered by building permit fees. That's how everything goes in and out of that department. I don't know if Mrs. Whitfield has a better explanation to explain that to us, if it's more helpful just to understand it fully.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So the building department, not the planning department, but the building department is self-funding. So there is a reserve that's been built up over a number of years. I think it's somewhere around $230,000. And we've been using that to either transfer surplus in or transfer deficit out. And so if at the end of the day, we have a $4,000 deficit in the building department at the end of 2021, then it would be an automatic transfer out of their reserve of $4,000 to make it net to zero. And that is done through policy. So that's not done through a request to council to transfer the money from that reserve. So if the risk is that we're going to spend $4,000 more than we thought we would, because we don't know what the revenue, the building permit revenue is going to be. It's all budgeting here is our best guess. So if Mr. Walsh is confident with what we've got in the budget already, the building department balances at zero at the moment, we'll leave it alone. And if we end up spending, $2,000, $4,000 more than we thought, and we didn't have $2,000 or $4,000 in revenue extra, we'll take it out of the reserve and we'll be fine.
So at the end of the day, it's not going to affect our tax rate. Is that clear for everyone? Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of skipped over into building there. Any more questions, just basically on planning and industrial park? Councillor Tabin, do you have a question?
Well, I just, to back up what Councillor LeBlanc's saying, that this is a 50-50 split, the cost. So the developer will pay 50% of whatever the cost is to the consultant, and the ratepayers will pay the other 50. But I understand how you're going to draw it out of reserves if there's a shortfall, which there would be. Is that correct?
No.
Ms.
Whitfield, go ahead.
Yeah, so what Mr. Walsh explained last night was that they would be paying, this developer will be paying building permit fees. And then they will also be paying 50% of the cost of those extra consultant fees. So as they pay their building permit fees, it will be, he said, I believe in his report was 24,000, and he said that there was one missing. So it should have been $124,000 in building permit revenue for that development will more than cover the 50% cost of having that consultant do the inspection work. And the other 50% will be paid in addition to. Is that correct, Mr. Walsh?
That's, yes, that's exactly correct. Thank you.
Okay, is that clear for everyone now? So that, yes?
Not really, but it's okay. It's a nice, easy way to justify paying half of the costs to a building. And I'm just hoping that we won't be doing something here that's setting a precedent. But anyways, we'll move forward.
Just to be clear, we're not justifying anything. Everything as far as the building department goes in and out through.
I absolutely know that. I've been around a long time, Deputy Mayor. I know that that's the way it works. And of course, it's going to come out of reserve. But we're still paying 50%.
Any other comments on that at this point? Councillor Bateman and then Mayor Ostrander.
I was just going to add to the comment that Councillor LeBlanc and Tadman, I don't know if this is the same thought that they're going down that path. I think the unknown with the RSM contract is we don't know the final amount because there's no way of knowing that because we don't know right now how many times we're going to have to come here and do inspections. So the number that we're seeing is not really the final number, I guess. That's what I'm saying. There's no way anybody would be able to know that right now.
Thank you. Mayor Ostrander?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just to be clear, though, regardless of what happens with the RSM contract, it's not coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. It's coming out of the fees and charges that are being levied against the developer. So the developer will be paying the full cost of the RSM contract, just in a different way, because they have also agreed to pay 50% of that contract up front. And then the fees and charges levied against them will be used to cover other costs in the municipality, including the 50% portion of the RSM contract levied against the municipality. So it won't cost the taxpayer a dime.
Councillor Tadman?
Whatever way you cut it, it's taxpayers' money, but we can move on.
Okay, so we have planning at the 14.93, and then obviously the industrial park at 0. We're okay to move on into the next sections with those two. Flip the page.
Yeah.
So next we have the building department that we have already kind of discussed. It's obviously a 0 because it's supposed to be self-supporting, and so we have money going in, money going out. It's an estimate. We don't know how much we're going to receive for building permits this year, and anything over or under comes in or out of the reserve fund for that reason. So are we okay with that department? We can move on to the next one. Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, through Chair, for the building department, and there was some extra funding that was sent to developers to be collected. And I was wondering if this amount received, or that there was, if the money that was asked for the developers to pay extra were fees that were not collected, was that collected from all the developers so far for building fees and permits?
I'm not sure that this is the right place for us to be having that discussion.
Okay.
If you like, Council, we can provide you with a summary report of where we are.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so next is the bylaw department. We have revenues and expenditures there, as well as animal control. It shows a 19% increase. And we had a report that explained that a little bit. So 19.19%. Any questions from council on that? Comments? Are we okay to move on? Okay. And we have public works. We have a number of revenues and grants, administration, building revenues, equipment expenditures, bridges, culverts. Of course, always, as always, public works is our largest department. So overall, we have a 3.59% increase in that department. Any questions from council or comments at this point? Councillor Bateman?
Thank you, Chair. I had a question. I'm not sure if it falls under Public Works or if it's under bylaw. I've been looking for the right spot. I know at our last budget meeting, we were talking about fill permits and the amount of fill that moved and the revenue that's generated by the $2 per ton. Where would that be located? Is that under Public Works or am I in a different area?
Who would like to answer that? CAO? Or
Either
Ms. Willard?
either the treasurer or the planner.
Which one of you would like to answer that or is able to?
I can volunteer my non-answer. To date, I think we don't really have much in terms of revenue in terms of the fill bylaw. You're correct in the quoted rate, Councillor Bateman, of the $2 per ton. It's over a certain limit or threshold within the bylaw that actually kicks in. I think it's over 200 tons that it begins to trigger. But we have no submitted revenue for the administration of fill bylaw to date. We have a kind of an application submitted, and there are still some discussions about the application with the applicant. So we anticipate some revenues from that as they proceed with their works, but to date, we haven't collected a fee until we've actually accepted the application in the fullness of the information that we require from them.
So basically, Councillor Bateman hasn't been able to find anything because it's not here. We haven't budgeted anything for it.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc, did you have a question? Still, I saw your hand.
Yes. With this maintenance here, road expenditures, does this have the road, telephone road between Highway 30 and Highway 26 in it, in this budget here? The expenditure for the repair on that road?
The expenditure for telephone road between 30 and 26 is in our capital budget. It's budgeted at about $1.2 million or so. Right now, we're taking a look at the operating budget. So beyond, picking up garbage along that particular section of road or miscellaneous repairs, there would be nothing in the operating budget that would deal with telephone road.
Thank you.
So just further to that, just so that we all have clarity, we have $929,000 in the roadways maintenance expense. Just give us an idea what that covers. Whether it be Mr. Castleman or would you like to answer that?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Parkinson.
Sure.
For you, Deputy Mayor. So that would be all of our winter maintenance, our summer maintenance, the cold patching, the grading, tree removal, that sort of thing. Just kind of the general maintenance. The ditching would be in there as well, the brushing, that sort of thing. Equipment costs and staff costs and equipment and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council on this Department of Public Works? Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, for the CAO on traffic, on the street lights and fixtures. If we've assumed, I see you got 142,000 in it for 2021. If we've assumed some properties and they're missing street lights, this is where it would come into the maintenance and repair of those lights, or is having them installed?
Well, again, I'm going to defer to Preston. I'll take a shot at it. Certainly, under this streetlight expenditure, the majority of it is for energy, and I think I know what you're referring to as far as assumption of streetlights. Each and every time that we assume a new subdivision, we assume the sidewalks, the streetlights, whatever it happens to be, and then we become responsible for it. My recollection is that there is a small amount of the total expenditure that involves new streetlights and/or repairs, but the majority of it is from an energy perspective. But perhaps Mr. Parkinson could jump in.
For you, Deputy Mayor, yeah, it's all basically energy costs, and I think we have 7,000 in there for our annual cost to just put new streetlights up here or there as the locations arise.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A couple of questions, mostly directed to Preston again. I guess the decrease in maintenance expense, $200,000 is fairly significant. Are we doing less maintenance then? Which kind of concerns me as far as customer service or service delivery.
Yeah, Mr. Parkinson.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. No, we're not doing any less work, that's for sure. We're definitely getting more done. I think there was some realignment or readjustments of overtime that the Director of Finance was able to realize. It aligns better to what we're actually spending. And I think that was the majority of those funds. But if Linda has anything else to add, please feel free.
Go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, there were some small adjustments, but it was mainly that dangerous tree contract that we had last year for $245,000 that was removed from that budget. So that's where it is.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I have another question?
You sure can.
Thank you. Waste tipping expenditures. Can I have an explanation? Is that just what the municipality would pay for taking our garbage to the landfill? That would be one question I have. My concern is also about recycling in town. As far as I know that our public works employees pick up garbage, not necessarily always recycling. Would we have to pay extra to have that looked after a bit better?
Who would like to answer it? Go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. The recycling in the town, the curbside pickup for recycling, both at our households and the downtown bins, is looked after by Northumberland County. And our public works staff and our park staff collect garbage cans throughout the town. So the tipping fees are used for that budget line to take that garbage to the landfill every Friday.
So for example, the garbage cans downtown, anything from those is taken to the landfill, and that's part of this cost?
That's correct.
Does that answer everything for you, Councillor Rowley?
No, I would like to maybe make a comment to the mayor, if he could, if you're listening, Mayor. Could you please take this to the county that downtown, especially, we've had those concerns before with DBIA, that recycling doesn't get picked up in a fine fashion. I'll leave it at that.
Were you able to hear all of that, Councillor Ostrander? I know Councillor Rowley froze for a few minutes. You're good? Okay. Okay. Any other questions on this department? Councillor LeBlanc and then Councillor Bateman.
To the CAO, through you, Chair, on the stormwater sewer expenditures, is it stormwater sewers or is it the stormwater management pond all at one? And you've added 27.4% to this budget. Is this to do more for the stormwater management, just to clean them out or flushing of the lines?
I think I'm going to do a bit of a tag team here. My recollection is that we did a stormwater management master plan back in 2018, 2019. And what we've been trying to do is, as a result of that master plan, it provided us with a 10-year game plan with respect to enhancing the level of service within our community. Quite admittedly, we had not done a very good job over the course of the last number of years. And with the master plan, it provides us with some guidance on a go-forward basis. What we've been trying to do from a staff perspective is be mindful of that 10-year plan and incorporate those recommendations from the master plan into the annual budget process.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman, I think, was next.
Thank you. For Preston, I just want to confirm that the sidewalk expenditures, that's reflective of what we voted on and approved as a council last night.
For you, Deputy Mayor, partially because there's some carry forward money that we're also spending this year, and that was included in the report last night. So I believe the total is 356,000 of work that'll be done this year.
Thank you.
But the carryover, obviously, we're not budgeting this year, correct? It's just being carried over.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman, did you have another question?
Just a quick follow-up. This one's probably for the CAO, if I could. Just under the crossing guard expenditures, there's a drop. Is that a COVID-related thing that made that percentage drop?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from council for this section of our budget? We're satisfied to move on. Next, we have the Parks and Rec Department. We have a number of expenditures here and revenues as well. We have our harbor, our admin, the arena, King Edward Park, the canteen, splash pad, the community center, cenotaph, and the parks, garage, and equipment and waterfront trails. We do have a decrease of 96.96%, sorry. And do we have, does council have any questions for Mr. Miller? I see none. Everyone's satisfied to move on. Next, we have economic development. This includes our tourism and community events, as well as Apple Fest and our broadband committee. There's a decrease here of minus 12.72. If we're going to add those two items tonight, Ms. Whitfield, what difference would that make? Do you know easily? I mean, it's not a lot, but.
So Ben, if you could just please reiterate the amounts that you want to add to the budget. There was $1,000 for the mapping and nothing for the student. Is that what I remember?
That's correct.
So we're looking at adding $1,000 to the budget.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll let Linda do that. Any questions for Mr. Hagerman at this point in this budget? Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not necessarily just for Ben, maybe for Linda as well. I just want to speak, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I'm going to ask anyway, regarding community events and the carryover from this past 2020, as far as we would have some dollars left to move into a reserve. And I know, Linda, you have said on other occasions, sometimes those dollars kind of go into the contingency at the end of a year. With some of the discussion we had last night, and maybe some of us are maybe hopeful that we might be able to plan a few events by the end of the year. Is it possible for those dollars remaining from 2020 to be put into a community events reserve? If I believe we have one, that we could leave it there instead of adding those dollars into the municipal contingency fund. If such case, we would have some dollars to work with this year.
If I may, Deputy Mayor, speak to that.
Yes.
Council does have a policy, and the policy states that any surplus at the end of the year does not go to other departments or committees, but goes to the contingencies reserve. So if there were to be a special event, and council is completely aware that the Community Events Committee planned like crazy in 2020 for their events, and then COVID pulled the plug. Same with Apple Fest, who could claim the same thing. Council, I believe, would be quite supportive of extra community events and pulling the funds from the contingency reserve. At this point, we're past the end of the year. We passed resolutions for transfers to reserves for projects that were not completed. So that's already been done by resolution in 2020. So my suggestion and my recommendation to council is to just leave it alone, let the policy happen, and then pull the money out of contingency reserve for support of community events in 2021.
Does that answer your question?
It answers it quite clearly. It answers it quite clearly.
Councillor Tadman?
I think it's a good idea to stick with the policy, and this has happened in the past. I think Linda can vouch for it. And I think now everybody in the committee understands that the money in many ways was yours to begin with, but because it wasn't spent, it went into the contingencies. So I think we all on council would be very sympathetic to your particular event when you brought it up. Same with Apple Fest.
Ms. Whitfield, do you want to comment further?
Yeah, I think that it's important to understand the reason for the policy too. And that is, we don't want to see departments, or not necessarily committees, but departments or others padding their budgets and thereby increasing tax rates to the taxpayer, just so that they can have funds to add to a reserve. COVID is a different situation altogether, but that's the reason for the policy, is to encourage departments to put in fair budgets so that the taxpayers pay for the services that they're going to receive in the year.
And which most committees, obviously, and this one in particular is done as well, coming back at zero, right? So, okay then, thank you.
Any other questions at this point for this department, economic development? Mayor Ostrander?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not to belabor the point, I appreciate Councilor Rowley's request and I understand where it's coming from. I know that this committee in particular doesn't really want to be coming back to council over and over again asking for money if there's events that they come up with over the course of 2021, because we want to get out there and celebrate the end of COVID, which we all hope is going to happen. But I also appreciate that we have a policy and we should adhere to it. And I only speak for myself, of course, Councillor Rowley, but the chair knows this, and the two representatives from council on the committee know this. I will be incredibly supportive of anything we can do coming out of COVID to celebrate the community. So even if we do end up just sticking with our policy and putting in a contingency, I'm sure we can find that money in contingency and put it back into the committee's hands.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think anyone here is going to disagree with the idea of having a big celebration and making it happen. So, okay, are we satisfied with this department? Are we ready to move on? Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just remind me, please, last year, 2020, we had a net of 154,379, and this year, 21, 124,529. It's almost $30,000. Why was it that much more last year? I can't remember.
Who would like to answer that? Mr. Hagerman or Ms. Whitfield?
Yeah, we did the accommodation study last year, which cost about, we budgeted 20,000 and it ended up costing 15. And the other 10, I believe, is in relation to the Memory Junction due diligence. We've budgeted a little bit less this year to get that phase 1, phase 2 done this year. We were in the bid stages right before COVID hit, and that project went deferred to this year, as in 2021.
Thank you for the reminders.
No worries.
Anything else? Okay, we're going to move on. We have our Mount Hope Cemetery revenue and expenditures. We have an increase of 5.88%. Any questions from council on that? Linda, can you just remind us why there's an increase?
It is only $1,400 expenditures for Mount Hope. The contract has increased slightly, and the revenues have remained the same.
Thank you. So we can go on to the Brighton Health Services Center. That also is to be revenue neutral. We have an in and out there. Well, sorry, we have a $30,000 profit, but a 0% increase. Any questions from council on this department, this section? We're all satisfied with it? Okay, we're gonna move on. Next, we have health services revenue and donations. Our net is 80,000, a 2.04% decrease. Any questions from council on this? We're ready to move on. Okay. And next, we have Police Services Board. There is an increase of 116,000, a 6.74%. We don't have a lot of control over this, but at this point, does any questions from council on this? We're satisfied with this and ready to move on. Okay. Next, we have other external budgets, DBIA, QEDC, Bay of Quinte, and we can all see the list. We have a few changes here and there, but overall it's a 1.25% increase or 11,000. Any questions from council on this department or these departments? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, once again. I might be asking this. This might not be an operating budget issue. This might still be a capital budget issue. Are we going to go back and review some of that too? Or is that part of the budget been totally approved?
We've passed the capital budget.
So it's too late to add anything. Well, I'll tell you what I want to add, or what I want to ask a question about. It has to do with partnering with the DBIA. I know the last year or two, this year not so much, of course, COVID, regarding Christmas decorations. There's been some talk that at some point the municipality might want to partner so that we can kind of increase the street lighting and things that we do. They come at a significant cost. So my question is there an appetite from this council that at some point we could partner with the DBIA to add a few dollars to specifically that budget? I think I tried to ask that during the capital portion, but we kind of skipped over some of those things, so it was kind of pushed aside. But anyway, I'm going to bring it up again.
Well, I don't think Christmas lights are capital.
So would we
repairing and having to replace them? I don't think that's necessarily a capital item.
So it could
I would
under...
think the DBA. I would think the DBIA should come to council with a proposal, right? In order for us to make any kind of a decision on that. Certainly, I would love to see more lighting, improved lighting at Christmas time throughout the downtown area. So it's something I would certainly be willing to talk about, but we do need to have some sort of proposal with some numbers in order to do that.
Would you like to have
that? Am I right? Just 1 second. Am I right or wrong as far as whether or not it's capital? Ms. Whitfield, I believe it would be more of an operation, sort of an in-between sort of thing.
I think it would be operating, and I think it would come out of a partnership with parks or with economic development to do a project like that.
May I ask another question to that then?
Yep, go ahead.
Would you like a proposal like that before we complete the budget, or is that something that we can look at throughout the year?
Well, we always get things that we can look at and add on at one point. Ideally, it's done at budget time. So I'll leave that with you as far as whether the DBI can pull something together. And I think other council members would like to comment. Let's see what everyone's kind of thinking. Councillor Tadman and then Councillor Anderson.
I definitely agree with Councillor Rowley. We do need some new lighting in the downtown. It's getting kind of old and tired looking. But I don't think you need to hold the budget up to discuss this. I think we need an amount, especially because we're going to partner and to see what percentage the residents are going to be expected to contribute towards that. So I would suggest more, Councillor Rownley, that you come back, you go to the DBIA and see what they come up with as an amount, and then come as a delegation, and then council can make a decision. Because there's different means of getting that money out of either a reserve or out of different departments.
Well,
And
then
it's
you can
not going to
expect
be,
something.
okay.
Thank you. I wonder if also there might be some grants out there for this sort of thing that staff could look into. Councillor Anderson, you had a question.
You hit it on the nail on the head. I think perhaps economic development can take this on, but I think there might be some downtown improvement or something, some fund somewhere coming forward that we could be grabbing onto. And when that opportunity is there, we should grab onto it whenever it comes along.
Any other comments from council on this? Councillor LeBlanc?
Through your chair, Councillor Emily Rowley, I would gladly support a motion like that to come in front of council to revitalize our downtown and our Christmas lights. I'd be on to that with you 100%.
So I think that's what you needed, Councillor Rowley. I think everyone's willing to talk about it. We want to hear about it. Just put it together so we can see numbers and figure out where we're going to pull the money from.
Okay, will do. Thank you very much for your support. Ben, looks like I've loaded another grant application on your desk. We just finished one today.
Okay, so any other questions about these departments while we're here? Anything else from council? Are we satisfied to move on?
Oh, Deputy Mayor,
Council-
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't find how much we are giving now to Northumberland County for economic development.
Yeah, that's usually embedded in their budget as a whole. Whenever they come, I always ask that. But Ms. Whitfield, do you have an idea, or not off the top of your head? Would you be able to let us know, or do you know, or do we have to ask Northumberland County, or maybe the mayor can ask?
Or maybe Ben knows.
I can find out what the economic development and tourism budget is for the county, but it's embedded in the levy. So whatever the ratepayer pays Northumberland County is what's right.
Okay.
The municipality does not pay an extra amount of money.
No, it's part of
well, it's part of it a whole, though.
Mm-hmm.
Through you, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
Once I receive their levy paperwork, then I'll know the percentage of the total levy that Brighton pays, and then we can take a look at their budget and be able to break it down.
Okay.
Well, just
Mary,
further to that, I noticed that we're paying $46,627 to QEDC and a $20,858 to what is it called, the marketing, Bay of Quinte marketing. So we're up to $67,485 without counting the counties. So it's getting pretty steep what we're paying for economic development. So I think we better watch those numbers. Doesn't this go up again, Linda, this year, that from the Bay of Quinte marketing, because it's at $20,858. I think we signed on cheaper, and each year it goes up. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that's correct. However, they have committed to giving us back the increases for the last 2 years for Ben's project for the student.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, this year. So do we ever get a report on how we benefit by the money that we are asked to contribute? I know that other times we would get something from Chris from Quinte Economic. I don't remember anything in a long time from Northumberland. And I think we did once from the Bay of Quinte marketing, but I haven't. I saw a little magazine that really wasn't worth much to me. I don't know who it would be worth, but anyways, that's all I've ever seen. Haven't seen
I think we've
anything.
received a couple of reports from Bay Quinte since we've signed on with them again. They do try to do it every 6 months and make sure it ends up in our mailboxes or by email. I know that because
Anything promoting Brighton, that's really all I'm interested in.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Like
As far as
what?
Bay Quinte, I sit on the board, so I make sure that they're promoting Brighton, and Mr. Hageman also attends those meetings as well. Maybe, I don't know, Mr. Hageman, if you wanted to comment at all on any of these options or items that we're investing in. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry. I actually just saw the guide for the 2021 tourism season, and there's a fairly heavy Brighton presence all throughout the guide for sure, promoting obviously different tourism assets, but things like food and opportunities for accommodations and things like that. As well, we have a really close relationship with Bay Quinte Tourism. I bring them in anytime we need extra promotion. They obviously put forth that grant project that the Chamber was successful in getting the $3,500 from. So that was directly related to the partnership. Brighton, the Chamber wouldn't have qualified or even been eligible for that grant without being a partner of Bay Quinte Tourism. So just little things like that we collect a lot of value from, goes a long way in being a partner of that marketing board.
This is just a comment though. For 20,000 something, we're getting 3,000 back and a couple pictures in a magazine. Is there more than that?
The student, isn't the student part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely come up with a little bit more fulsome report on what they do for us, given a little bit more opportunity. But I am working through all of our partner groups at getting them out to our Economic Development Committee. Doug is actually presenting in the February meeting. Last month in January, we had Chris from QEDC, and they're all putting forth kind of what the value they add for Brighton for the per capita funding that Brighton provides to them. And we're kind of working through the process like that. Eventually, Northumberland will come as well.
Thank you. I have just a question. I always forget what this is. We have a budget item that says other cultural services. What does that cover? Ms. Whitfield?
There you go. That's your grants and aid.
Okay, and we've already talked about that. Thank you. So I have Councillor Bateman and then Mayor Ostrander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was just going to go back to the Quinte Economic Development, the Bay of Quinte, and even Northumberland Tourism. And like Councillor Tedman, I think everybody wants to see and make sure that we're getting the bang for our buck, and every municipality would. But in defense of all of those, I think this is really a tough year to measure return on investment, because you're not really going to see the numbers in tourism and hotel stays, because we're at our second lockdown and a stay-at-home order in the last year. So I don't think you're going to see the physical return of investment on this. I think when we come out of COVID, there'll be more measurable success or failure of these types of things. So once we get out of COVID, we'll see what this can really do for us.
And to add to that, though, I know, like I said, in particular, because I'm on the board, Bay Quinte Marketing Board, they were marketing very heavy for shopping local. And we're promoting that very much so to try to help the businesses continue on through this. So certainly they tried to pivot to doing that. Obviously you wouldn't want to market to having people come in from other areas this year, right? It's just not something we wanted to do. So Mayor Ostrander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Two things. First of all, I'm staring at a line item that says other cemeteries, and I should have made a declaration at that point, at the point in the agenda when you asked. I'll just advise council that if any discussion comes up with regard to the Hilton Cemetery, it's owned and operated by Trinity St. Andrews United Church, and I am a member of the board of directors of Trinity St. Andrews United Church, so I am in a conflict of interest. And for the clerk's information, I will submit that on the registry here when we're done this meeting. With regard to local tourism, hotel stays were actually at the 80 to 90% occupancy rate in the Bay of Quinte region during COVID-19. People aren't quite sure why that is, but the suspicion is that as things filled up in Prince Edward County, folks had nowhere to go, so they stayed at hotels in Quinte West and Belleville. Northumberland Tourism, just for your information, did pivot. And while they would normally focus their online analytics for drawing people into our region, into Toronto and the GTA, they refocused those analytics so that they were focused, they went up to Peterborough, into Northumberland County and over toward Hastings and Prince Edward, so that we were drawing more local into the catchment area rather than trying to draw folks from Toronto, which we were all discouraging this year. So there is work going on, and your money is being spent wisely for those tourism and economic development needs. A lot of this stuff happens in the background, and we don't see a lot of immediate uptake. We're not seeing a paved road, for example, but the shopkeepers in our downtown can certainly attest to the fact that the kind of economic development investment is working and works for our local economy. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the this department at this point, or these areas? Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, through your chair, I don't know if it applies here, but the Codrington Community Center, I don't know if it's in the budget or here or in another part. Their sign has gone down, and in the built-up area in Brighton, we have two signs, one on the fire hall and one on our community center. And the Codrington Community Center requires a sign for advertising just like that, because theirs is gone. And we brought it up in the budget, and I was wondering if it was part here or part in the planning. I think Linda Whitfield was part of that. I was wondering if I could have a refresher to that answer.
Okay, through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, we've had some discussions, Jim Miller, I think, Ben Hagerman perhaps, and I have had discussions with Leanna Palmer, and also some discussions with the Codrington Community Association, but mainly it was the farmers market that wanted to have a sign. Also, the former fire chief was part of the discussions too, because it would be something that perhaps municipal staff would maintain if we had one at that corner. There's some work to be done, obviously, because it's on the corner of two county roads. And so we would have to have permitting from Northumberland County, I'm sure, to install a sign. But in the past, we have had the fire hall sign and the park sign both funded through community grants. So I believe Enbridge contributed to the sign at the fire department, and through the Rotary, or one of our local groups contributed the money for the sign at the community center. My suggestion to the farmers market was to go to CBM and to go to Enbridge, because they've both been generous in the Codrington community, and see if they could get some fundraising started for their sign. That's where the conversation ended.
Thank you for that.
Just to
Councillor
follow
LeBlanc?
up. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason I'm asking this, because this is a high traffic road, Highway 30. Citizens, and try to get them to draw them into different events so they just don't go on the 401 and leave. So kind of economic development, tourism, our downtown stores, also for the events in Codrington, and let the community know what's going on in the rural area. So that's why I was bringing that up. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Mr. Miller, did you have a comment to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the sign that's out in front of the arena. It was donated through the Brian Todd Community Foundation, the Lions, and the Ken Club. The three of those three pooled their resources together to donate that sign. It didn't cost the municipality anything.
Okay, thank you. Just checking to see where we are. Anyone else? Okay, yes, Councillor Bateman.
Thank you. I was just going to speak to the sign out in Cotter and maybe put a slightly different spin on it. I have talked to the Director of Finance about this as well. We have our AGM coming up. When you look at the sign, and I am 100% supportive of the farmers market, but the farmers market is just one component of the CCA. So it would be best that is something that the CCA, whether it's the Women's Institute, the farmers market, is comprised of representative of all the user groups that use that. So the approach should be at the meeting that they make the decision as a whole to bring something forward, either to council to tap into this, the funds that are through the solar panel, and I can't explain how that works, or a joint funding application. But I'd rather see it as a group do it than just individual offshoots, because that sign or that building is used by multiple user groups that comprise the CCA.
Library, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, are we satisfied with this department? Okay, so that's our total external budgets and our operating budgets. We've gone through. The total is a 4.23% increase, although will probably be a little bit more, adding that $1,000 for the promotion there with the chamber. Is council at this point satisfied to be able to pass this budget? Are there items we need to hear more about, think about, and decide at another meeting? I need to know how everyone wants to move on at this point.
I like it the way it is.
Okay. Mayor Ostrander?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We asked staff to come in with a pretty lean budget, and they've managed to do exactly that. I appreciate the work they've done. I would note that any increases we've seen along the way have been as a result of council's discussion and council's wish to add services for the community, or add extras for, not extras, but add things so that we can better serve the community, both from a staff and council point of view. So I'm not sure at this stage where we want to cut. And if we do, I think we better ask the question, what services are we willing to forego? And are we ready to go out to the public and ask that question? So all that said, Deputy Mayor, I would move that the committee recommend that council accept the budget as, I guess, as amended this evening, but as discussed this evening.
Do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second it.
So Councillor Anderson is seconding. Madam Clerk, are you preparing that motion?
I had a hard time hearing. Mayor, if you could just say it again for me, please.
For Ken, just recommending that, I would move that the committee recommend that council accept the budget as amended by this evening's committee of the whole discussion.
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor, are we putting the total tax increase in that motion?
Add and approve the total increase of, well, we start off the night at 1 point. I can't find it right now.
May I make a suggestion, and we just put the total tax levy?
Sure.
So the tax levy at this moment is $9,831,740.
Usually we like to tie an increase to that, just,
Yeah, that means nothing to 99.9% of the people.
let's just find out, Mayor, are you willing to change that motion to that, or do you want a separate motion?
I'm fine if we know what the number is to include in the motion.
I can't hear a word he says.
Sorry, yeah, you're going in and out.
How are we doing now?
Try again.
I'm fine including the percentage increase in that motion if that's the wish of council.
Okay. And the seconder as well, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So if we can have the increase that for Candace.
Would you like the tax increase or the budget increase?
Tax.
Tax.
2.31%.
2.31%.
Tax increase, yes.
After, Deputy Mayor, after the motion is read, I'd like to have a recorded vote, but I'd like to speak to why I want a recorded vote, okay?
Yeah, so the motion is
It hasn't been
almost
read yet.
You're right. We'll wait for it to be read in full, and then we'll have a discussion. We haven't had discussion yet on it. So
Can
when
I
you,
just, sorry.
yeah, if it's all completed, Candace, if you're able to read it for us.
Yeah. Just because my internet is not good tonight for some reason, and things just keep cutting in and out. So I'm just going to read what I have. Please just correct me if I'm wrong. So
Okay.
That the Committee of Whole recommend to Council to approve budget as amended by Committee of the Whole with a 2.31% tax increase.
Mover and second, are you satisfied with that?
Yes.
Okay. So that motion is now on the table. Councillor Tadman, you had a comment or question?
Yes, and I'd like a recorded vote because back when we did the capital, there was lots of areas I thought we could have cut and brought that to zero, which has brought this. And I don't believe for a minute we're going to lose out on any services had we have cut maybe some of the vehicles or other things that I was talking about at that time. And so therefore, it may sound petty, but I'm sticking to the fact that I think we should have come in with the zero budget. So I will be voting no to this.
Okay, any other comments before we move on to the vote? Councillor LeBlanc and then Councillor Rowley.
So through you, Chair, Deputy Mayor, so we're moving from 2.28 to 2.31. Is that correct?
Linda, did you want to comment on that? You're muted.
I added the $1,000 and we went from 2.28 up to 2.31. Our blended increase changed from 1.68 to 1.69.
Does that answer your question, Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, who did I say was next? Councillor Rowley, I think. And then Mayor Ostrander.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think this is a pretty good budget based on the struggles that not only we've had, or just to try to balance it well, and the fact that staff have worked really hard, I guess. And maybe this is not the time to ask because we're going this way now, but I just hope that staff are okay with having to slash and cut what they're doing this last year in order to provide the service that they do for the municipality.
Any comments on that?
I don't know what was slashed and cut that was necessary.
I'm not seeing staff comment on that at all.
We'll call the
So-
vote then, please, record it.
No, we had a few other people that had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe Mayor Ostrander had a comment or question, and then Councillor Anderson yet.
Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess I don't wish to prosecute the capital budget again. But I just don't understand the comment that, we'd like to remove a few vehicles, as if that would even affect the tax rate. We know that we finance our vehicles in this community and would have little to no effect on the overall tax increase if we were to remove those purchases this year. Next year maybe, but not this year. So, quite right, Councillor Rowley. I think we've come in with an incredibly tight budget. I do hope that we aren't going to see a service delivery problem at all, and I trust that if we were, staff would have brought that to our attention early on in this budget. When we asked that question, will this affect our service delivery? And we were assured that with this budget, we would be able to continue to service the people of Brighton the way they have become used to being served and what they have come to expect. So I'm pleased with where we are. I'm equally conscious of the fact that people are struggling, and I understand that 2.31% is not easy for some people, and yet we have a responsibility to ensure that the corporation of the municipality of Brighton carries on as well, and that's our duty as well. So I look forward to seeing what council does with this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
I think the mayor mentioned a few things that I was going to, so I'll just leave it at that. The one thing, I didn't hear a lot of comments about where we could cut the operations. Capital was approved. We have not approved operations yet. I didn't hear a lot of push on any of these operational departments. So with that, I think I'm confident we're making the right decision to go ahead and approve this.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this? Okay, Councillor LeBlanc, and then Councillor Bateman, sorry.
Yes, to approve on this, Chair, Deputy Mayor, I asked Mrs. Whitfield to go back to 2015 on how much money we've given to the county, and just roughly it's $47.5 million. And looking at the county budget, there's been about $6 million that's been spent in the town municipality of Brighton in that time. And we're going to be fixing a road for 1.3 million. I know it's not coming out of taxes, but it's coming out of our reserves and be depleting our reserves, our cash reserves. And because of that, I can't support this budget. But thank you.
Councillor Bateman.
I just wanted to clarify, it's a overall, we're saying 2.31%, or is this still the capital on top of that?
Ms. Whitfield, did you want to clarify?
Yes, our municipal tax increase is 2.31% total. And taking into consideration the county's increase and the school board's 0%, we're at a 1.69% blended tax increase.
Does that answer it for you, Councillor Bateman?
So I'm going to use your term, Deputy Mayor. What's the bottom line for the taxpayers? The 1.69. 1.69%. If I could, just to comment on, in line with what Councillor Tadman said, there was some areas in the capital budget that, that I would have liked to have seen different. We debated that, we moved on, and it's been voted on, and it's a decision of council, whether it's the decision that any of us was hoping for, it's been made. When I look at the operating budget, we all went through it. I didn't, like Councilor Anderson said, there wasn't anything that jumped out and nobody said anything about where everybody could trim. I'm really torn because I can understand both sides. I understand that we have infrastructure needs. I understand we want to get a lot of stuff done, but I am out in the public a lot and by design because I like being out there. I'm doing walking and stuff. So I hear the people and I'm listening to the people. And I know people are struggling. So it really tears you in two different directions. It's not an easy decision to make because you have to weigh on one side what you know you have to get done. But I physically and visibly see how it is impacting some people. It doesn't impact everybody that way. And we still don't know how it's going to impact them down the road. Like, this lockdown could get extended 3 more times. And we're talking about improving the DBIA with lights and stuff. And I'm 100% in favor of that. I'm just hoping when we come out of this, we have a downtown core because we don't know how long this is going to drag on. We don't wish that on any business in our community or any community, but nobody really knows, So it's not an easy decision because I know we need to get stuff done. This isn't a large increase, but I know people are struggling at the same time.
Thank you. And just a comment to that, these are all hard decisions. I don't take any of this lightly. At the end of the day, we have to do what we believe is best for Brighton. And sometimes we'll agree and sometimes we won't. At the end of the day, it is the majority. And that's what we're here to do. And it's not always fun. But I do believe we are all doing what we think is right and best. And I think that's what we need to continue to do. So if we're ready to vote, I do realize, Candace, that there were 3 motions that I've missed for each of the reports. We can do that after this motion. Okay, thank you. So if you're ready, Candace, if you you can do the recorded vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Ron Anderson.
Yes.
Councillor Mark Bateman.
Yes.
Councillor Doug LeBlanc.
No.
Councillor Emily Rowley.
Yes.
Councillor Mary Tadman.
No.
Deputy Mayor Laura Vink. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Muted.
No, she's not muted.
Oh, I can read that.
There we go. That's better. Okay. Mayor Brian Ostrander.
Yes.
And it's carried.
I have 3 motions in front of me. We were supposed to pass a motion after each of the reports tonight, so I'm going to read them, and then I need a mover and a seconder for them, and we can vote on those. So the first one is that council received the second draft of the 2021 budget book as presented. Mover, seconder, Councillor Rowley, Councillor Anderson.
It was amended though, was it not?
You're right, we did add 1 item. Thank you. Mover and sector still okay with that?
So
and
was again, sorry.
Call the vote again.
Who moved?
Sorry, it was moved by Councillor Rowley and seconded by Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. You want me to call the vote now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Councillor Ron Anderson?
Yes.
Councillor Mark Bateman?
Yes.
Councillor Doug LeBlanc?
Yes.
Councillor Emily Rowley?
Yes.
Councillor Mary Tadman?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Vink? Mayor Brian Ostrander?
Yes.
And it was carried.
Item is that council receive the report for information. Sorry, this is regarding 6.2, that council receive the report for information while deliberating the 2021 operating budget. Staff will be adding 1,000 to economic development budget, line 1 -07-815-815-2297, branding and initiatives. I need a mover and a seconder.
I'll move it.
I have Councillor Rowley moving and Anderson second. Madam Clerk, if you could call the vote.
Councillor Ron Anderson,
Yes.
Councillor Mark Bateman,
Yes.
Councillor Doug LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councillor Emily Raleigh,
Yes.
Councillor Mary Tadman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Vink, Mayor Brian Ostrander.
Yeah.
It's carried.
And for item 6.3, that council received this report for information regarding an economic development summer student and how the funding will be generated. I need a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Councillor LeBlanc and Mayor Ostrander. Madam Clerk, if you could call the vote.
Councillor Ron Anderson,
Yes.
Councillor Mark Bateman,
Yes.
Councillor Doug LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councillor Emily Raleigh,
Yes.
Councillor Mary Tadman,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Vink,
Yes.
Mayor Brian Ostrander. And it's carried.
Okay, next we would move on to question period. Do we have anyone waiting to ask questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Thank you. And we have no in-camera session. So we just have a motion to adjourn. Do I need a mover and a seconder for our motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for that?
As chair, you can just adjourn the meeting, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so I'll be adjourning this meeting at 7:48 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.